serve you. And that is exceptional. And so, in the spirit of the church, in the spirit of the African American church, where I've spent most of my Sundays since April of 2017, hearing, and you know what became my theme song, Pastor Gray, and then the theme song of our general ticket was Waymaker. You know that song, Waymaker? He is our way maker. He is our promise keeper. He is our miracle worker. He is our light in the darkness. He sent us Andrew Gillum, my friend, and now I introduce Andrew Gillum, Mayor of Tallahassee.
All right. I thought for a moment Chris was going to break out in Waymaker. Miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, our God. Man, what a total and complete blessing to be here with you all this evening. I obviously have to begin by thanking my running mate and partner over these many, many months. Even when we were competing against each other, y'all, I gotta admit, he was my favorite. I think at one debate we may have even high-fived each other, and I had to remind myself, wait, he's my competitor, what are we doing here? But all along the way, Chris has been nothing but a brother and a friend, and I can't think of anybody else aside from my wife RJ and his wife Kristen to have been in this journey alongside and with. And y'all, I wanted so bad and still want so bad for us to be able to make a combined impact on this state. And I'm trusting that we're going to have that opportunity. Will y'all give it up for Chris King? I also want to thank our good friend and amazing pastor, Pastor Terrence Gray. That's right. St. Mark, if you didn't know it before, I hope you know it now. You got one amazing, anointed pastor, a man of God. I'm also extremely proud to bring greetings from one of your sister churches, Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Tallahassee, Florida, under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Julius McAllister. And all of us are under the combined leadership of the presiding prelate of the 11th Episcopal District, Bishop A.J. Richardson, who I'm extremely proud to call a friend. I'm also so thankful for the combined faith community that we've heard from this evening. Those of the Jewish faith, of the Muslim faith, those, frankly, who may not choose a faith at all, but surrender themselves to a higher power. I'm so thankful for Faith in Florida, for the amazing work that they do every day on our behalf to help so many of us, quite frankly, transform the prayers that we pray and the scriptures that we may read, and to make sure that faith is not dead because we're willing to put the work behind it. That's extremely important. Y'all, I am pleased to announce that I am here tonight not asking for your vote. I'm not here asking for your vote because I believe you've done all of that. I believe you've done that part. I'm simply asking that every single vote that was legally cast be counted. That is our work here tonight. That is the work that we are on this journey over these next several days and weeks to make sure is made true, to make sure is made honest. As Chris indicated in his comments, it has been the complete and total honor of our lives to be able to serve as the heads of the Democratic Party, as the gubernatorial and lieutenant governor nominees right here in the state of Florida. We could not be more thankful for the faith and for the trust that was placed in us and our families to be those torch bearers. And I can't help but to appreciate the elected officials, the community advocates, those of you who stood alongside us, many of you in front of us. You stood on street corners with campaign signs. You greeted voters as they came in and out. You engaged in some pretty intense conversations to try to get people to believe that their votes were not in vain. And now we find ourselves here several days now after Election Day, trying to fight to make sure that we count the votes of the people who went out there and did their jobs, who accepted their responsibility in democratic society and took that responsibility seriously, and they cast their votes. And now we're here in the state of Florida asking that those votes be counted. I don't know if there are, but if there are any veterans in the room, as yesterday we observed officially Veterans Day, the day before was the calendared observation of Veterans Day. If there are any veterans here, could I just ask that you stand where you are right now? I want you to receive our gratitude. I want you to receive our thanks. I want you to know that your work is not in vain. I want you to know that there is a community that embraces you and that thanks you for everything that you have done on our behalf. You see, these are the people who have rushed toward danger when the rest of us run from it. These are the people who, on continents and countries all across the globe, actually go out and do the difficult work of trying to extend democratic practice beyond our U.S. borders. And now here we are in the state of Florida. In 2018, fighting for those same democratic values to be upheld right here in the state and in the country that we call home. There's a weird irony in this for me. I want you to know that Chris and I obviously poured everything that we had into this race. We went out and we went to red areas and we went to blue areas and we went to purple areas of this state. We went to parts of this state where we were not invited, and even maybe some places we weren't so welcomed. And we traveled there because we wanted to convince everybody that we came into contact with that we wanted to be their voice too in this process. I wanted everybody who I came into contact with, whether they were Republican, Democrat, Independent, no party affiliate, I wanted them to know that I wanted to be their governor too. And part of standing here today and demanding that every vote be counted is also me saying that whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or non-party affiliate, I'm standing here to make sure that your vote is counted too. Every single one of those votes ought to be counted. And this is without regard to who the ultimate victor or the vanquished may be. Because the truth is too many of us have gone out and tried to convince far too many folks that this process is one that can work for them. Too many of us have had to stare that person down in the barbershop or in the beauty salon or outside the grocery store or maybe in a pew sitting next to you. That it mattered that we showed up in this process. You see, the real travesty of voter disenfranchisement, the real legacy of it just isn't, it's not just in those individuals who showed up to vote and maybe there were dogs sicked on them or fire hoses opened up or individuals guarding the entrance of the door or symbolic or otherwise real threats through lynchings and otherwise. Yes, that is voter disenfranchisement. That is disenfranchisement at a whole nother level. But that's not the only way voter disenfranchisement shows up in this process. Voter disenfranchisement shows up in the process when you show up to vote and the difference between you and the person next to you and the identifications that might be accepted might be if you got a hunter's license, that's okay. But if you have a student ID, then you need another form of identification in order to be allowed in the process. That's also a form of voter disenfranchisement. But what is also a part of voter disenfranchisement is that first-time voter. Or maybe that eligible voter who has set out of the process for years, who in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s decided that there was something different in this election. Something different about the discourse. Maybe for the first time they heard themselves, their voices reflected in the candidates and in the policies that were being discussed. And because they felt and believed that this process was going to be different, they decided to mosey on down, either walking, catching a ride, maybe driving themselves, maybe taking a bus. God knows how they got there, but whatever they did, they showed up. And they showed up and they waited in that line for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour or even more, convicted that when they got to that booth and they cast that ballot, that ballot would be counted and their voice would be imprinted on the outcome of this election. And that somehow in that process now they find their vote in question. Disenfranchisement shows up in that mother or that father, that hardworking individual who gets up every day of the week to go out there and work on somebody else's job in order to keep a roof over their head and clothes on their and their children's back and food on the table. Whatever it was, whether it's by choice or by necessity, they chose